It's rough out there, you know, in the world. Some of us turn to writing for solace and inspiration. Text that helps us take in the dark and find the light. So if you are someone who wraps themselves in words to warm your heart, or maybe just looking for a little help getting through the day, week, year, join us as we talk to people about the pieces of writing they use to bolster their souls and remember their way. The good bones that remind us we can make this place beautiful. Hello, and welcome to the Finding Good Bones podcast, a podcast all about the writing that helps us sit with the dark and also shift our perspective to the light. I am one of your hosts, Kate, and
I am your other host, Amy. Hi.
Hi, and welcome. So, Amy, what are you reading?
I just started a book by Shannon McGuire called Aftermarket Afterlife. It's one of her most recent in her Encrypted series. It's fun. That series is really fun. One of her other series, the October Day series, is one of my favorite ever of any series. This is another one of her series that this new book just came out, and I don't know how I like it yet. I'm sure it's fine. Just started it.
I'm into the title, Aftermarket Afterlife.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it sounds.
And what are you reading?
I am reading. I've just started. I'm just a few pages in to a book called Night Bitch. By Rachel.
Love it.
I know. I'm pretty sure I'm going to love it. It's by Rachel Yoder, I think is how you pronounce her last name, Yoder. The premise is that there's this actress and creative professional who is now a stay-at-home mom with her toddler. And then some nights she turns into a dog.
Oh, bitch. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Got it.
like bitch in the sense of like a female dog. Uh-huh. And then who knows what else. I don't, because I just started reading it. And although I will say one of the first lines in the book was like, she wished her husband would take her more seriously. It's like, I should note that this also was like a gift from my sister-in-law. Uh-huh. I'm like, what made you think of me? Professional. I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I mean, I'm a stay-at-home worker, but I'm not a stay-at-home mom. But it is, the trying to figure out the balance of like a creative life and then also a work life and then a parenting life is a challenge. And but whatever made you think that this would resonate with me? I can't find it right now. But that's. I mean, it probably just means that my toddler put it somewhere.
Probably,
which is not the worst fate a book in this house has met.
I did see pictures. Of a fate that a book in your house recently met.
Yeah. What Amy is alluding to is that I recently accidentally washed a book in the washing machine. It was fully in the washing machine. It was terrible. It was one of the biggest messes that I have ever been a party to. And I have been a party to some huge messes occasionally in my life. But it was terrible. It was also, of course, the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. So, obviously it was a book about creating good habits and being on top of things. That's the one that I fully threw in with sheets into the washing machine. It was destroyed, which is part of why there was such a big mess. Normally that would be like a dream. Like I'm like, oh, covered in paper with writing. This is wonderful, but it wasn't. It was all wet and pasty, and it was a kind of lengthy, involved process that took more than one person to kind of clean it all out. And we kind of made new paper in the lint trap in the dryer.
Oh.
Yeah, it was involved. And then, the pictures that Amy saw were both of the mess and then also, it left this little nubbin of a book. Like, it's just the spine and then, like, I don't know, maybe an inch to an inch and a half of the pages. It's very sad and funny.
Hilarious.
Yeah. If you didn't clean it up.
It's hilarious for him over here.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Well, that was a lengthy intro, but we get to have a little bit of extra time today because our guest is Amy Winters.
Hi. I'm happy to be here as a guest on your program.
We're so happy to have you. It's a collective we.
Yes.
For those of you who are not familiar with her, Amy Winters is a writer, editor, and all-around storyteller with degrees in English literature and masters in American studies. And she spends her days working to advance education across the nation, which is no small feat in this nation. And she is also a self-defense expert. So she may be able to kick your butt and then also tell a good story about it. Hi, Amy. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Is there anything that I missed in your bio, or is that, if you would like to read an expanded version of Amy's bio, you can go to our website, findinggoodbones.com, and read all about her on the About page.
I don't think you missed anything. That's it. It's all me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, Amy, what piece did you bring us today?
Well, I brought a song. This is the first time. This is the first time anyone has brought a song. Everyone, depending on when this comes out, I guess everyone has brought poems so far, which is great. And songs are kind of poems. But I decided, they're not
poems.
But I decided to bring this one because I've listened to it so many times over and over and over and over. And I think there's a lot of good in it. There's a lot of dark and there's a little light.
Well, would you be so kind as to introduce us to the title of the song and the artist/writers, and then perhaps read it for us?
Yes, I will. Okay, so the song is called Spring Break 1899. It's by Murder by Death, which is a band that I really like, and they are not a metal band regardless of what it may sound like. I would say they're like Americana. And it's from their album Red of Tooth and Claw, which is my favorite of their albums.
Amy, just read the poem. We're going to get to all of this after.
Listen.
I'm so sorry. I meant, can you say, you know, where it's like,
all right, listen.
Spring Break 1899 by Murder by Death.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay.
Spring Break 1899 by Murder by Death. The sun is coming up over the hill. Or maybe it's not, I can't even tell. But there's a warmth on my face that isn't the blood, and my tears are turning the snow into mud. And I can't feel my left leg, but I think it's still there. Did I kill anybody? Hell, I never fight fair. What state am I in? Am I still on the run? Has it really been so long since I've seen the sun? My instincts are telling me to pick up and go, but I can't feel my fingers and I can't move my toes. There's a drained bourbon bottle laying next to my head, and the piss and the vomit are the sheets on my bed. Then I'm skipping part of the middle of the song. And here's the end. I've been down and out. I've been spit on for so long. I stored my shame in my belly till I needed to be strong. In my last guilty whim, I stole a map and a truck. It's pure chance that I haven't already been picked up. But from here on, the slate's clean. I'm heading way south. Always heard the girls were pretty there. I got to find out. Look, Ma, your son's a traveling man. I don't know what I did, but I'll do all the good that I can.
Whew. Yeah. So, let's talk about it.
Okay.
So yeah, I think, and I'm sorry that I stopped you before, but I wanted the talking kind of about the album that it's on and when and why you've been listening to it to be on this side of it.
Well, let's go then. What do you want to know?
Yeah, let's go. So what is it about this particular, and not just this song, but also these particular portions that you've chosen? What is it about them that really speaks to you?
One, just the words, like the way that Adam Turla writes, the way that he tells a story.
Yeah.
I can't stop listening to and reading these words. I mean, listen, the piss and the vomit are the sheets on my bed. Come on. That's beautiful. It's gross, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So
it's poetry, right?
It's poetry.
Very gross poetry. Yes.
It is. And you can see it. You can see what it looks like. You can feel how this guy feels, right?
Yeah. I will say less around seeing what it looks like, but it really, it's very visceral, right? Like it takes me, I won't say to a specific point of time in my life, but we've all woken up to some rough mornings.
We have.
Maybe not rough exactly like this, but like
pretty bad.
Woken up with a drained bourbon bottle next to
Yes, indeed. I think both of us have.
So, yeah.
And then the lines, I stored my shame in my belly till I needed to be strong. Oh my God. Yeah. That line. So partly I brought it and partly I listened to it so much is just because the storytelling and the images that Adam Turla puts into his songwriting. But also I brought it since this podcast is about dark and light. I brought it because you can see that this man is in the dark. He has been through the dark. He probably is kind of a piece of shit.
He doesn't sound like, I don't feel like any of what has been happening is necessarily at this point in his life undeserved.
No. And there's part of the song I skipped, which gives you even more of that. And if you listen to the whole album, you get that. This album is sort of an odyssey. Like the whole album is a story. And this is the last song in the story.
Oh, okay. So when you say it's like an odyssey, is that a reference to like the Odyssey?
The
like
Odyssey.
Homeric-esque? Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, they have actually said that. Like he begins the very beginning, the first song is he's saying he's going to go home and he's going to kill his wife as he goes home. And then I know.
Penelope does not deserve that.
No,
sir.
No. But it is an odyssey, and there's even some sort of ideas to some songs that are almost like gods kind of watching him. But and then this is the final song.
Yeah, so this is both a selection. Oh yeah, you go.
Yeah. Oh, he did not kill his wife, although he very, very closely did. And then right before this song begins, his wife's boyfriend stabs him. But
it's kind of a reverse odyssey. Yeah.
Kind of a reverse odyssey. But you don't need to know any of that. You could just hear this song all by itself. And which is the first way I encountered it. This is a an image, a story, a standalone. You don't need to know any of that. I just it's my favorite album.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you've brought us like both a selection from the song and then the song itself, though, is like almost like a chapter from this wider story. But yeah, it's very contained. I didn't feel, it's great to know that there's more out there, and I'll certainly listen to it. But
you don't have to.
No, not for this to mean and evoke, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, how familiar are you with this band? You mentioned that you'd been listening to this quite a bit recently. I know that. Sorry, dear listener, I'm asking this question for you because I know. Because Amy talks about them a lot.
I do talk about Murder by Death a lot. They're one of my favorite bands, and part of that is because of their narrative. I don't know. This album has been out for a decade and a half. I think, but I always knew kind of who Murder by Death was. But then when I started dating Ryan like 12 years ago, my boyfriend, he listened to them a lot. And I was like, I started being like, these are stories. And so, I've been listening to this album for quite a while.
Those are my favorite albums. I will say, I think the first time you were like, do you know Murder by Death? I was like, the comedy movie? Yes, I do.
And that's what they named.
Is it what they named it after? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
they've said for like no good reason. It's just picked that.
I think that there can only be good reasons to name something after the, I don't know if it was the late 70s or like the early 80s, but for those of you who have not seen it, Murder by Death is like it's a mystery noir spoof film that has like all of the archetypes. Anyway, that's not what we're here for today, but it'll be in
No.
the show notes.
Yeah.
So this is one of your favorite bands, and yeah, let's just talk a little bit more about the piece. You've already kind of touched on a couple of your favorite moments.
And those are just like descriptions. But one of the things that I like is just the first couple lines. The sun's coming up over the hill, or maybe it's not. I can't even tell. But then the third line, but there's a warmth on my face that isn't the blood. That feels like he is coming alive to something new. Right? You don't even know anything yet. You know, though, that the speaker is in a bad place.
It's not great. No. But he's hopeful. And then he drops it a bit, right? When he's describing his current circumstances. But then it really feels like in the last portion, he's making a decision. Kind of by like, you know, I think, you know, when he's like, it's pure chance that I haven't been picked up. For me, right after that, where he starts saying, from here on out, the slate's clean, like I'm headed south. And what really got me the first time I read this, when you sent this in, is, yeah, just those last two lines. I don't know what I did, but I'll do all the good that I can. And they've taken great pains to let us know what a terrible place, and in part due to many of his own choices that this person is in.
Yeah.
But I love that. And I've certainly not been quite here, but I have gotten second chances. And just that idea of dropping the shame, of recognizing it and dropping it, because shame is such an inhibitor to action, right? And then just saying, like, you know what, I don't know exactly what I did, but from here on out, I will do all the good I can. And for me, like, that choice to move forward, not saying that like amends aren't important, but I think at a certain point, people can dwell. I certainly have done it, where I've dwelt on the badness or the wrongness or the hurt I've caused in a way that, I don't know, probably makes it too much about me.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of just acknowledging it and then, you know, but what I've got, right? Got a second chance. I'll do all the good I can. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting because you said let go of the shame. I think here he is saying, I'm reading it as, I held all this shame and now I'm going to actually use it. I'm going to use the shame, which may not be what you're supposed to be doing with shame. You're supposed to kind of let it go. But it kind of feels to me when he says, I stored my shame in my belly till I needed to be strong. Is he saying there, it was handy that I kept this shame around so I could use it now to be a better person?
So how I interpreted that was like, it is in the using of it that allows us to let go of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been holding a lot.
He's been holding a lot.
Yeah.
But he is, you know, he's letting it go. Right. Or at least that's certainly the feeling with him saying, like, the slate's clean. Right. For me, that's very much like a shame. Like, you know what? I had it. I held on to it. And then it was there when I needed it. Right. And I do, you know, look, there are a lot of interpretations of shame. I think shame can at times be useful. But I think, you know, the holding on to it, right? The hoarding of it is. Yeah. So that's kind of what it feels like, right? Like, yeah, it turned out that it did come in handy.
Yeah. And man, he spent a long time gathering it up. He's done a lot.
It is. Yeah, I stored my shame in my belly, right?
Yeah.
Like that is
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
quickly.
It's not a happy. Yeah. No,
No.
he's been storing it a lot. I really I know that if you're listening to the first part and you hear him describe, he's lying on the ground, he's got piss and vomit all over him. He can't feel his fingers and toes. Like he's apparently lying in snow. Like what's happened to him, we don't know. There's all this him describing where he is, but throughout that part, there are little pieces of light. I mean, literally when the sun's coming up and he feels a warmth on his face, like I said. But then there's another part where he says, has it really been so long since I've seen the sun? And that I think that's him starting to become a little bit self-reflective as he's lying there in the mud. And that self-reflection, I think, as we go through the rest of the song, really helps him think at the end about changing his life. I have to say, though, as a person who has known people in these situations who consistently claim they're doing better and then don't for a very long period, we could look at this in a negative. We could look at this as, sure. This is the promise of a guy who's promised this before. We could look at it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that changes anything.
Yeah.
For me.
Good point.
Because first off, he is talking to himself. Right?
Yeah.
And he's not saying, I'm going to do good to get something. Right? He's, and whether or not like he winds up doing, I mean, here's the deal. He'll probably do all the good he can.
And it may not be all that.
It may not be much, right? But I think the sentiment of it is valuable, right? I think the I'm trying to think of the right word, and because sentiment doesn't feel quite strong enough, but I think the intention of it doesn't get merit necessarily by whether or not he succeeds. That's where it gets hard. Rev, like, who am I to judge, right? About whether or not you've done all the good that you can. Spurred on by stealing a truck.
But note, he also stole a map.
Yeah, stole a map. So,
giving him a guide.
Because the map was in the truck? I don't know.
Could be.
Or was it too? But I don't think it negates it. Even if he goes on and like keeps fucking up, because that's not, because that's not the point of second chances, right? The point of second chances is that like you can get more. For me,
infinite second chance.
Yeah. Now maybe it's just because I recently watched a copy of Atomic Habits by James Clear. But in it does talk about like, look, perfection doesn't happen, period. But also like you can't refine habits you don't have. Everybody has a starting point. And so, what I can say is he's looked at his life and he doesn't like it. And he also recognizes that a lot of it's him. I think that's what also strikes me about this. And maybe he will do more good than he has done, because in here, he's not blaming his circumstances, right? He's describing his circumstances in detail. Now, I can't speak for the rest of the album, right? But
no. I'm thinking about the part right at the beginning of the last part I read. I've been down and out. I've been spit on for so long. Has he, though? I mean, like, did he start this because he was being spit on, or is he spit on because he did? You know what I mean? So he could be blaming his circumstances, or maybe not. You could read it either way.
Yeah, I think, well, look, I think it could be both, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it does reach that point, right, where it actually doesn't matter if you were the cause of the initial spitting on. That,
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's where for so long, right, gets me buy-in for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, there's a feeling of like of time
Mm-hmm.
spent in this position. And so yeah, maybe it did really start out as a result of his behavior, but also after a while, I think as we see in our very difficult world, and for people that I know, like, look, just because you've made a mistake doesn't mean you should be condemned forever.
Yeah.
And I guess that's also why I come at this as like, yeah, well, maybe he will do all the good he can, and maybe he won't. Maybe it's all bullshit. But I think there's
Maybe
also a
he.
difference. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh no, just maybe, maybe he is lying to himself,
Mm-hmm.
but he believes it right now. And I do think that means something.
Mm-hmm. That's where the light
What were you
comes
going to
in.
say? Yeah.
I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
It does
I don't
matter.
remember.
Remember it.
I don't remember. Sorry. Too late.
Oh, boo. So you've been listening to this recently. Is that
Mm-hmm.
just because you love them, or is there anything in particular like this is helping you through? Or can you think of a moment in your time where this has really helped you?
I have been listening to it a lot recently. It's one of those that I just play on repeat, and sometimes I don't know why. I've been feeling a little overwhelmed and down lately.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that this is a song you would put on if you want to feel happier. I do think that I do turn to art when I feel overwhelmed and down. Sometimes it depends on the kind of overwhelm. And like I say, the narrative and the beautiful descriptions in this song, I do like to turn to. And then also, we're just reading it here, but if you listen to it, there's something in the music that also is what makes me want to listen to, right? I'm not just listening to someone
Yeah.
reading this. I'm listening to someone singing it. And they
I
also
would
have
also listen to somebody reading this. It has strong Cormac McCarthy vibes.
It does.
Which would not make it. No, I don't think any of his works make it
you
onto
don't
the
turn
show.
to for light. No.
But I do want to be clear. Like, the pieces on here aren't about being happy, right? The pieces that we talk about aren't necessarily the ones that make us happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's what help. And I will say, certainly this fellow is feeling overwhelmed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he finds a way out.
Yeah.
It's flawed. It's a flawed way out, but he finds a way out.
Yeah, it could be flawed. He's headed out to find pretty girls. So
in the South. So
that's his plan.
Good luck, sir. I mean, no, the South is full of, look, there are
depends on how far south he's going.
Everywhere.
He could go all the way down to South America. Who knows how far south he plans to go?
All the way down to Antarctica.
All the way down. I do recommend, however, that everyone listening to this, please go find this song and listen to it.
We'll have it in the show notes.
Okay. His voice it's a very Johnny Cash voice, but I would say it's like buttery. It's like a buttery Johnny Cash. Did you listen to it, Kate?
I was waiting until I wanted to hear you talk about it before I listened to it.
It's a very deep voice. And they have a cello in the band. And so there's this mournful cello behind.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. In a rock song. Yeah. It's this mournful thing throughout that kind of weaves behind.
I'm also just going to have to look up and see if there's anything to include on the show notes as far as like buttery Johnny Cash.
Maybe
I hope there's some sort of fan art that's like a buttery Johnny Cash.
I don't know if anyone else I mean, people have described his voice as Johnny Cash-like, but I think there is something, yes, absolutely, but there's something else there too.
Yeah. Well, that's our podcast.
We did it.
We did it. Thank you, dear listener, for coming with us on this ride with our stolen pickup, stolen truck, stolen map, headed down south.
Yeah.
This is the point in the show where we would give somebody a recommendation for their own tailored Good Bones piece. If anybody ever asks. So if you'd like to, it's on our website. So I guess if nobody ever picks it up, and then maybe we don't have to say this forever and we'll find a new way to close the show. But I'm holding out hope.
Oh, that someone will ask. Yeah.
Someday. Well, it's not just one, like many will ask.
Many.
So
we have so much to give.
Yeah. We're going to do all the good we can. So anyway, thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening as we go finding good bones.
The sun is coming up over the hill, or maybe it's not, I can't even tell, but there's a warmth on my face that isn't the blood, and my tears are turning the snow into mud.